Hello everyone, Adam here, and I'm going to do something different here. I'm going to summarize Far Cry New Dawn. Now this video will focus mostly on the entire core story of Far Cry New Dawn. And if you want to see more of these videos, leave a like, comment, and let's get to it. Far Cry New Dawn. It takes place 10 years after the events of Far Cry 5. After the bombs dropped, Hope County was put into a nuclear wasteland along with the rest of the world. Those who survived the nuclear holocaust have finally emerged and are seeking to rebuild the world based on the resources that are now available to them. Unfortunately, the people of Hope County don't have that luxury, as the Highwaymen, led by Mickey and Lou, twin sisters who value power above everything else, start wreaking havoc among the populace. You only have three options. You can either join them and become one of the Highwaymen, you can be killed, or you can become a slave. Not exactly ideal choices. You take control of the captain, a veteran warrior who is now part of this convoy led by a man named Rush, who's seeking to help those in need. He receives their distress signal about the Highwaymen and decides to enter Hope County with a convoy. Unfortunately, the Highwaymen, they intercept this convoy, kill everyone, and only 3 members of Thomas Rush's expedition survives. Face to face with Mickey and Lou, they offer you an option. Of course, you can either work for them, or you can turn into a slave, or of course, they will just kill you where you stand. One of your members decide, hey, I'm gonna sell you out, and he basically tells them about Rush and his capabilities. He's promptly compensated with a helmet to the face. Rush, being the caring person that he is, decides to save your life by throwing you off the cliff. I mean, I guess it's a better fate than being smashed to bits with a helmet. You're rescued by Carmelita Rye. For those who remember, is the daughter of Nick Rye, who helped you take over Hope County from Joseph Seed's control. Of course, she tells you about the crappy situation that you're in, informs you how to build a manufactured buzzsaw, and on top of it about Prosperity, the last good hope not controlled by the Highwaymen, but it's going to fall unless you try and help them. You then set off on a long-gated mission to recruit specialists in the way of dogs, boars, and some familiar faces and others not so familiar. Throughout your adventure, you're causing havoc for Mickey and Lou as they slowly lose more and more power over Hope County, and they start getting more and more aggravated with you. You eventually recover Rush, who is not too keen about being a slave to Mickey and Lou, promptly introduces one of their members to what happens when you kill all his people. You escape and return to Prosperity. Of course, Mickey and Lou aren't too happy about this. They're extremely annoyed that you've been undermining their leadership and showing them as weak. They decide to take a few children and try and convince you, well, you have one or two options. You can either fight us and we'll kill you, or you can leave and we'll let you live. Of course, you, being the main character, decide to fight them off. And after a large-scale battle in Prosperity, which leaves a lot of people dead and the base of operations basically dangling by a thread, Nick and his wife decide to make the ultimate choice and ask for Joseph Seed's help, who now controls a different colony, fittingly called New Eden. Of course, you have to go over there, but the members don't want you in there because, you know, reasons. You're an outsider, you're not devoted to Joseph Seed, all that garbage. So you attempt to leave, but it turns out that you've been infected with some of the blisk, and now you're starting to hallucinate. Fortunately, it's not the type of hallucination which causes you to kill yourself like Fate Seed used to do. Instead, it points you in the original direction of where the deputy first appeared in Hope County at the start of Far Cry 5, and also the bunker where it all ended, where the deputy was trapped with Joseph Seed for those 10 years. You solve a series of puzzles, you eventually reach the bunker, and you find this elusive book. This legendary tome and the only copy of Joseph Seed's entire dogma, all recorded, and if you've been paying attention to the landscape, you've probably run across a couple of signs stating that this book is the sign. Why no one decided to look onto the island covered in blisk, I don't know. But nevertheless, by finding the book, you are given entry to New Eden, where you meet some of the residents all commandeering bows and arrows and having this very Luddite type town. You then encounter Ethan Seed, who happens to be the son of Joseph Seed, who is a bit off. he convinced that his father is dead and that they should accept him as their new leader. Of course, the people don't want him as their new leader, as I don't see why. He seems like a perfectly fine and unstable person. Who else would you want to lead your people? But nevertheless, he wants to secure his leadership, and the only way he could do that is by ensuring that his father is dead and bringing back proof to the people. Of course, you are charged with doing this, but before you can, you have to gain the admiration and respect of the people by performing a task that even he couldn't accomplish. This includes releasing the sacred flame from its dormant state, which is the giant statue, remember in Far Cry 5, that anyone could see. And by reigniting the sacred flame, they mean release a bunch of blisk and set it on fire. So you head to the statue, release the blisk, kill everyone inside, and of course reignite the sacred flame, which gives you the respect you so rightfully deserve because you're the protagonist and they're not. Afterward, Ethan Seed agrees to help you, but only if you help him by confirming that his father is dead. He tells you of the location of his father's sanctuary, which he apparently knows where it is, but unfortunately is covered in a fog of blisk. In order for you to successfully navigate the area, you have to light a series of bonfires which will dissipate the blisk and allow you to travel forward. You eventually meet Joseph Seed. He, completely malnourished and looked at the brink of insanity, is completely lost and has this type of mutated tree that he's been, well, meditating under. Apparently the tree is a mixture of the radioactive energy and the bliss drug that he cultivated from the first game, creating this type of hybrid fruit that resembles an apple. More of the, Christian ideology put into the game. But nevertheless, he gives you the fruit and tells you that if you are able to conquer the demon inside, who is fittingly known as the Beast, you will be granted extraordinary powers. After killing a giant bear, which I guess represents the Beast, you are granted incredible supernatural powers, which include double jump, incredible strength, healing, and etc. Afterward, Joseph agrees to assist you in your fight against the Highwayman, returns to Eden, with Ethan looking even more discouraged and unhinged than ever, and you are now granted the ability to travel with the judge, who happens to be the deputy from Far Cry 5. If you paid attention in the bunker, you saw that there was a bunch of notes of Joseph conveying that the deputy was completely unhinged and racked with guilt because of what happened during the events of Far Cry 5. Knowing that Joseph was right and indirectly caused the death of his friends and family because he was unwilling to accept that this cataclysm was about to happen. But come on, who would believe that this nutjob actually believed that a giant nuclear bomb was going to drop? I wouldn't have, but nevertheless, he took on the name of the judge and decided to fight along New Eden in an attempt to repent for all of his sins. In fact, if you interact with a lot of the characters from Far Cry 5, including Herc and Nick Rye, the judge will actually somewhat communicate with them in a very indirect way, especially if you talk to him with Carmita Rye in your party. Nevertheless, you have now gained the assistance of New Eden and now actually have a fighting chance against the Highwaymen. Unfortunately, during your time with New Eden, Rush has been captured once again. I have no idea how this guy got captured twice, and has been taken to the fertilizer plant by Mickey and Lou. You're told to come alone, but of course you can bring your buddies along if you want, and you find out that Mickey and Lou has not only kidnapped Rush, but a bunch of other innocent people and put them into saw-like traps. After rescuing them, or if you fail to rescue them, it's up to you and depending on your skill level, she then addresses you to come upstairs and meet Rush. You then follow her commands, holster all your weapons, and head into what is essentially a prison. Once inside, they order you to either put on the handcuffs or not. It's completely up to you. I, of course, refuse because I don't believe a single word that passes through either of these twins' mouth. They then promptly kill Rush by showing you that they are in full control and they are completely livid about what you've done to their organization. They then advise you that they are going to kill you in the most vicious way possible, but of course you refuse. You decide to incite the power of wrath and proceed to beat Lou into a savage pulp before her sister Mickey decides to fill you full of lead with a shotgun that you somehow forgot about. You're thrown from the window. It's at this moment that you have a mysterious vision about Mickey and Lou's past. Apparently their mother tried to stop their father from taking them, but they already were committed to his ideology of violence and destruction. However, knowing that they were going to leave, she makes Mickey promise that she'll look after her sister. It's at this moment that you come to and see that Lou is beating you up. Now seeing the full effect of Bliss firsthand, Mickey decides to leave the captain half dead because they need to come up with a plan to get the drug and power themselves up. You then take Rush's body back to Prosperity, where everyone has a touching funeral, realizing that they either stop Mickey and Lou here and now, or more of them are going to die. Gee, you think so? I always thought they would actually give up their horrible actions and, go straight for once. But nevertheless, now you're dedicating to stopping Mickey and Lou once and for all. First up is the Bullet Farm, where Mickey and Lou use slave labor in order to manufacture the ammunition that they use for their ever-growing army. Of course, you get a little help from Irvin, who has a huge crush on Lou but doesn't want to admit it, and also hates the warden. So with his help, you're able to infiltrate the Bullet Farm, kill the warden, and escape, either stealthily or, killing everyone inside the prison. Next up, you have to kill all of Mickey and Lou's top commanders. To do this, you have to win the Demolition Derby. Fortunately, Irvin's willing to help as well. He steals you a suit and you enter the derby and win, giving you access to the private dinner, which is hosted by Mickey, Lou, and all the most top commanding warlords. Upon entering the feast, you see that they've all started to conceive a plan to try and steal the fruit. And lo and behold, Ethan also shows up. Turns out he's hell-bent on obtaining the fruit for himself and needs some help burning New Eden to the ground because he refuses to accept that they do not see him as their leader. A completely sane person would do. In the end, one of the warlords has disagreement about this magical fruit and believes Mickey and Lou have become increasingly violent and unhinged, and they quell the disagreement, in the most prudent way possible, by shoving a piece of plate into his chin. Now that all the warlords are compliant, Mickey and Lou leaves with Ethan, so you can't kill them yet. Fortunately, the warlords are still around, and Irvin has snuck a gun into the toilet. You leave the dinner, get the gun, and you kill all the warlords. Now with Mickey and Lou's entire organization in disarray, you can leave the Demolition Derby. You get a final message from Irvin, who advises you to go to New Eden as soon as possible because it's likely that Mickey and Lou have already started their assault, and with the Highwaymen in disarray, this is your opportune time to finally take them down. Upon entering New Eden, you see the entire fortress is now on fire and under siege by the Highwaymen. You do your best to rescue what's little left of New Eden before Mickey and Lou stage their final assault. They plan to kill you here and now with or without the magical drug, and leads to one giant battle against you and remaining Highwaymen. Of course, Mickey and Lou don't stand a chance because you're a superpowered being and they're still regular humans. But nevertheless, the fight is grueling, and once you defeat them, you see Mickey and Lou now crawling to the ground, completely gasping for air and succumbing to their wounds. Mickey and Lou finding comfort in one another as they reach closer to death. Only Lou succumbs to her wounds and dies. Mickey now completely emotional mess. In this state, Mickey actually offers you a piece of advice and tells you to find Ethan, even encouraging you to stop him once and for all, before begging you to spare her life. At this point, it's completely up to you. If you kill her, you're basically avenging Rush and all the horrible things she's done to all those innocent people. But if you spare her, she actually leaves a note stating that she went back east to locate her mother. Can you imagine that, if she even finds her mother? Hey mom, I followed my dad, he's dead. Oh yeah, I also helped kill my sister, so that happened. That's gonna be a terrible reunion. Anyway, you head to Joseph's sanctuary where you meet up with Ethan and Joseph. Ethan sitting beneath the magical tree that bears the fruit that will give him supernatural powers, and Joseph asking you to step back as he tries to calm down his son. Ethan, completely showered with rage, yells at his father, telling him how he gave the fruit to you instead of him shows how little he actually cares about him, to which Joseph replies that he was trying to protect him. In an act of rebellion, Ethan takes a bite of the fruit, replying that it's so sweet before succumbing to the effects almost immediately, starting to choke and show signs of fatigue before running off. Joseph, knowing what's about to happen, he actually begs you to stop his son as you chase after him. After a series of cutscenes that seem something out of a horror movie, Ethan succumbs to the transformation and becomes what I can only assume is like a beast, the actual version of the beast. After a short battle with Ethan, which isn't too hard as long as you use your powers efficiently, Joseph enters the cave talking to his son, who is now transformed back to his human form, now almost dead. He asks his father to forgive him for what he did and that he's scared about dying right now. His father does his best to console him before he finally succumbs to his wounds. Joseph, completely racked with guilt and emotional trauma, screams out before he takes his son's body to the tree. It's at this moment that you get another flashback of Joseph and Ethan when he was younger. You get to see that Joseph has had this tree for quite a while and tried to tell his son that he's not ready for it, clearly showing that he understands what the tree is capable of, which means other people have used the tree efficiently. However, Ethan is unaware of what the tree can do, hence the whole transform into a beast. It's here that Joseph actually sees that his son is consumed by wrath and rage, and knows that he will never be worthy when he tells him that he will die one day and that he will take the fruit. We flash back to the present where we see that Joseph has decided to burn the tree along with his son's body, declaring that he was never a shepherd and everything he's lived and stood for was a complete lie. He's just completely racked with emotional guilt and doesn't want to continue on living, so he asks the captain to end it all. So you have one of two choices here. You can either oblige with Joseph and kill him, or you could let him be. If you do this, Joseph actually just sits there and starts yelling, "Release me," constantly. It's unclear what happens to Joseph after these events. I traveled back to this exact place and did not see his body anywhere, nor did I see it in the surrounding area. There's also no letter or anything to depict that he left the area or if he committed suicide. It's very unlikely that he did commit suicide because Joseph is a Christian and his faith is based on the Christianity faith, so I don't believe he did commit suicide. He probably wandered away and just simply left the area to start anew, or maybe just to find a way to end his life in the most, I guess, idealistic way possible. Those are my hypotheses, so I might be wrong, I might be right. Maybe someone found some sort of clues involving Joseph Seed's future. I don't know. If you do, leave them in the comments below. And finally, we have the epilogue in which the captain and Carmelita Rye actually visit Rush's grave before delivering their final dialogue. It's here that Carmelita vows to live the same life that Rush did, who dedicated himself to helping people and trying to rebuild civilization. And she plans to do the same for all future people who come to Hope County and prosperity. So this is where Far Cry New Dawn ends, and at this point it's up to you to just basically travel the world, conquer bases, do whatever you like. Overall, I was really satisfied with Far Cry New Dawn. It was more Far Cry 5, which I did enjoy despite all the heavy microtransactions. Mickey and Lou, while they did not have the same flair as any of the other antagonists in the original Far Cry, there was no way she was even, either one of them was close to Faith or Jacob or any of the other Seed families. But it was an interesting distraction. I do like the fact that they dedicated themselves to the Far Cry 5 lore, and it felt more like a game for fans who enjoyed the 5th game than newcomers who just hopped right into this title. Overall, I was satisfied, even though the microtransactions still have me incredibly livid, mainly because of their play to win system where you can buy perk points and elite grade weapons. But for the most part, for 40 bucks, I was thoroughly satisfied with this adventure. If you want a more in-depth review, I will have one in the description below. Just simply click the link. I'll also have my written review in the description below. So tell me what you thought of this video. Do you want to hear me discuss more video games in this way and summarize them? I would love to hear your opinions in the comments below. Also, like the video, it helps out a lot. And as always, stay awesome, everyone.